Hello friends, tonight we're going to take yet another look at my beloved Beretta 92A1, and since I've got this gun out, you know you're in for a really long rambling video in which I profess my undying love for this pistol. Tonight we're going to talk about some of the upgrades I've done to it, why I did them, and maybe dispel a few of the rumors and myths that surround this much maligned pistol. Unfairly maligned, I might add. For me, buying a Beretta was a childhood dream come true, and when I first got it, I wanted to keep it kind of factory stock and sort of pure, if you will. But the more I shot it, the more I realized that I bonded with this pistol more deeply than any other that I'd ever owned or really handled. And I started to customize it, which took it from being a nearly perfect pistol straight from the factory to being a perfect pistol for me, something that is so custom tailored to my style and physiology that I kind of feel uncomfortable shooting anything else, or most anything else. The PPQ also, I have a similar relationship with it. But let's take a look at my upgrades. First, the oversized steel magazine release. This was really easy to install, and I have short, fat fingers. So I have a hard time with a lot of American magazine releases anyway, leading me to prefer the paddle releases like on Walthers and HKs. But this makes it a lot easier for me to get to. It also feels really nice. It's really satisfying to use. It's steel, really sturdy, and I like the way it looks. So that's always a plus. Next came the metal trigger. This trigger feels more robust than the plastic-coated one that the gun came with, although the plastic-coated one even is really metal underneath. But I just thought this just seemed sturdier somehow. It also let me polish the bit inside where the trigger interfaces with the trigger bar. When I installed the trigger, I also deburred and polished some other key components that are part of the trigger system that really helped the way this gun feels. And you know, maybe I could have done all that stuff to the stock trigger too. I just thought the metal trigger was cool. It looks great. Along with that, I installed the D-spring, which drastically reduced the double action pull. It's very smooth now, really nice. A pleasure, frankly. The single action is also amazing. Creep-free, very crisp. I love it. The D-spring, to me, is kind of a must. I think everybody will find that the gun is better if they install the D-spring. Then I installed the G-kit. It removes the manual safety and makes the safety lever into a pure decocker. It's kind of funny. I'm not really sure why I originally installed the G-kit. The safety had never bothered me. I'd never accidentally engaged it. I guess I just thought the G-kit was cool, and Beretta rarely has them in stock, so I ordered one. This was a bit tougher to install. I like doing my own work on my guns. It's really rewarding and fun, but this was kind of tough. It took about 15 minutes, and really, if you're not handy, you may be better off having a gunsmith do that. Save yourself the cursing. I had personally had a fun time installing it, but I could see how someone else might not. These parts are of extremely high quality. I think they're a bit nicer than the stock safety and associated parts. Also, this feels really nice to operate. Let's see here. Yeah, look at that. It also makes a super awesome sound. Yeah, I like that. It's really cool. Especially the lever on the right side is far superior to the stock one, I think. Like everything else that I've installed, this makes the gun look cooler. What will I do to it in the future? After a recent conversation in the YouTube comments, I'm going to install some Trijicon Bright and Tough night sights on this thing. I've put it off for way too long. Also, I'm going to put a threaded barrel in, which Beretta is sold out of at the moment, or else I'd have one on the way. Also, I think I'll install a Wilson Combat magazine guide rod magazine guide in place of the lanyard. It kind of fits in here and supposedly helps you get the magazines in easier. Although I've never really had a problem changing mags, it just looks cool also. So, some Beretta myths. The big myth is just that the gun does not work. It's unreliable, the slide will crack, it's unsafe, and that generally it's a terrible gun. I've told this story before, but my facts were recently corrected by someone who was present at the time. When I went to buy this Beretta, everybody tried to talk me out of it. Clerks, friends, other customers at the store. When I was at the counter preparing to pay for the Beretta, a random customer came up to me and asked me, why are you buying that old piece of junk when you could have a compact Springfield XD in 357? So clearly I'm not there looking for a compact gun anyway. I'm not looking for a Springfield XD, although XDs are excellent guns. A lot of people I know have them and love them. And he said, that Beretta's going to jam up on you. And I told him I was pretty set on getting this. And he said, why? Don't you know the history of the M9 jamming and getting people killed? He asked why I would buy a gun like that, and I didn't want to explain to him the entire history of the M9 to a guy who has this like almost carnal attraction to very small Springfield XDs, which again are fine guns, just not what I was looking for. And I asked him if he would just please let me pay the clerk for my shiny new gun so that I could get the hell out of there. And he walked away and told his friend, I'm such an idiot. And 5,000 rounds later, I've yet to experience a jam with my terrible, terrible Beretta here. So this sort of pervasive slander of the Beretta 92 is a legacy of a classic U.S. government problem. In the late 80s, there were several catastrophic slide malfunctions, and it was determined that these failures occurred because the guns were being fed very hot ammo that was out of spec, and the guns had very high round counts. And as we know from the history of the M16, the government has a history of kind of bungling ammo supply stuff. So Beretta redesigned the slide so that it couldn't break apart in the direction of the shooter's face, and hopefully the government quit giving troops ammo that was way out of spec. But the damage was done in the M9's reputation. The older guys said it sucked because it wasn't a 45 1911, and future generations of younger guys say they suck because they are shooting guns with a bazillion rounds through them and that have had none of the parts replaced, and they jam constantly. From what some of my friends who have served our country have told me, it's kind of a testament to the M9's quality that some of those guns run at all, but still, they are hated. A new M9 doesn't malfunction, but one with 50,000 rounds through it and no maintenance sure might. A lot of other guns wouldn't even live that long. So I bet this has happened to you also. You're at a gun store counter and you hear a guy ask the clerk, let me look at whatever, a Taurus or, whatever a relatively inexpensive gun is. And they always ask, is it reliable? I only want a reliable gun. Well, don't we all, buddy? And there's this rare class of pistol, things like Berettas and Glocks and HKs and SIGs, things that are built to outlive the end of the world, guns that feel less like machines and more like kind of unfailing defensive talismans that work so certainly that it's almost like magic. But people act as though the Beretta is not part of that group. But, this is kind of reliability on a different level. Reliability taken to a place where the proper function of the gun is so certain that we almost cease to consider that the gun might malfunction. Those guns kind of transcend the idea of reliability. The Beretta 92 is that kind of gun. Of course it works. My Glock Model 22 never malfunctioned in the decade that I owned it. My HKs run flawlessly. This has 5,000 rounds through it and has never so much as had a hiccup. The Beretta is one of those guns that feels almost invincible in a way. It's built so well and so perfectly that I don't even consider its reliability. If somebody asked me, is it reliable? I would say, what do you mean? God, of course it's reliable. It's perfect in my experience. It's as good as the best.